Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Getting started a little bit later than normal today. Had a couple little technical issues, but I got those all taken care of. And this, of course, Open Mic is just the show where we do nothing but take live questions and talk and stuff like that. And I also take audio and video questions that you guys send in to me. And we're going to get to, I think, about 5 or 6 audio or video questions sent in to me. Now, how do you get an audio or a video question on Open Mic? Email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com, attach your audio or video question, and put the words open mic in the subject line. That way I know your question is for open mic. And yeah, then we'll be good to go. And of course, guys, listen, keep those questions, those audio questions or those video questions to 20 seconds or less. Keep them to 20 seconds or less, and then we'll be all good. So yeah, just trying to sip my soda and everything. And okay, we are ready to go. We're going to start off today's show with some audio and video questions that you guys have sent in. Then we're going to go over to the live questions. You guys know how the live questions work. You can send them in on Super Chat. Those guarantee that the questions will get asked. And then if there's time and if there's some leftover time, I'll go over to Twitter as well. So let's start things off with the first question coming to us from Dale. And Dale sends in this.
Hey, John, big fan. Hello from Brisbane, Australia. Just a quick question. What do you think of Scott Eastwood maybe being the new Wolverine? Because he looks very similar to Hugh Jackman. And he's got the same kind of similar style. Thank you. See you later.
What do I think of Scott Eastwood as Wolverine? Well, first of all, generally speaking, you know, I don't like going, what about this actor for this role? What about this actor? Look, Scott Eastwood's pretty good. I don't know that I'd be ready to... Look, if he did it and he was good, fantastic. I have not seen Scott do enough to convince me he can play Wolverine. And also, you guys know my position. I don't care what the actor looks like. I mean, yes, as long as Wolverine is not an 8-foot tall... I don't know, some 8-foot tall dude with long curly blonde hair. I mean, that's fine, but don't go to extremes here. Generally speaking, I think they can make a person look like Wolverine. I don't need the new Wolverine actor to look like the old Wolverine actor. One of the reasons everybody hated, it's hard to imagine it, but one of the reasons everybody hated the casting of Hugh Jackman when he got cast as Wolverine is because he looked nothing like what we expect Wolverine to look like. He was far too tall, didn't have the same appearance, all that kind of stuff. But now fast forward. Now none of us can even imagine Wolverine not being Hugh Jackman, right? So I really don't care if Scott Eastwood bears some similarities here and there. To me, that's not going to make the performance any better. And right now, I just haven't seen Scott in enough leading stuff to convince me yet, not that I'm against it, but to convince me that he could be Wolverine. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, yeah, I don't know. Right now, I'm not sure. I would need to see him do more if I'm actually going to give an entire brand new franchise, not just one leading role, but a new franchise to an actor. I want to know for sure that that actor has the chops. And I just haven't been convinced of that with Scott Eastwood lately. And we'll see. Again, I'm not trashing on Scott Eastwood. I'm not saying he's not a decent actor. I'm just saying I haven't seen it yet. Now, you could make the argument, well, John, you didn't see anything from Hugh Jackman. That would have been true, too. I mean, my argument could have been, well, he's a very successful stage actor. You got to be good to be able to have that type of career. But with Scott, I'm not sure. Like, if they announced it, okay, I'd be fine with it, and I'll go give it a shot. Maybe he'd be great. But if you were to say, I'm a studio exec right now, would I hire Scott Eastwood to be the guy? Not yet. I probably wouldn't yet. All right, thanks a lot for the question. Let's move on to the next one. This comes to us from David Riveras, who writes, I'm used to saying writes, who sends this in.
Hi, John. I've been a big fan for a while. I'm a huge fan of the James Bond franchise, but let me just say I'm not a huge fan of this talk of making James Bond a female. I have no problem with changing his ethnicity. To me, the factors that keep the character what he is are he's British, he's a spy, and his name is James Bond. What are your thoughts, John?
Here's my position on this thing with James Bond. We have had so many James Bond movies now. What are we going into? 25, 26? I mean, we have had a hell of a lot of James Bond. And it's all been the same. Like everything that you just described, that has always been Bond. With that being understood, I'm not completely opposed to the idea of a female version of James Bond because, I mean, hell, we've had so much of the James Bond that we've had already. We've had 20 plus films of this James Bond. Why not try throwing a... See, my whole thought on this is, why not try throwing a curveball? Why not try throwing a curveball? Like, why not change the ethnicity of James Bond and have Idris Elba do it? Why not once try throwing a change-up with gender and having a female actress play the role? Why not? Why not try it? It's not like we haven't had a whole sloth of James Bond the way it is. Now, that being said, if I was in charge of the studio, no, I would probably still keep him male. What I would then like is I'd like to see a new crop of female super spy action films. It doesn't necessarily need to be James Bond. So if I'm the studio head, no, I probably don't do a female James Bond film. But as a fan, I got no problem with it. If they wanted to do it, I'm okay with it. Because you know what? If it's good, then fantastic. If it's not good, then we go right back to James. James Bond has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades. He ain't going anywhere. So if they tried something a little different, and it works great, fantastic. If it doesn't work great, no problem. A couple years later, we'll go right back to the way it was. So I'm just never against trying something different. Sometimes even just for the sake of trying something different. I think sometimes good stuff can come out of that. All right, let's move on to the next live video question. This one comes to us from Hunter.
Hey John, this is Hunter Blasberg. I wanted to talk to you about Superman the movie, which this may be treasonous, but I think it may be one of the most overrated movies of all time. Not just that it's dated visually, but some of the story beats just seem ridiculous to me. And I get that it may have been influential at the time, but I don't think it holds up at all. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I don't completely disagree with you. Look, I've said before, that's why people look at me like I just said, I don't know, like puppies should be shot in the face. Like when I say, to me, Henry Cavill is the best Superman we've ever had. People look at me like I just said, let's all go around and shoot puppies in the face. How can you say? You're not allowed to say that. You have to say Christopher Reeve is the best Superman, and I love Christopher Reeve as Superman. You have to say that the original Superman was the best Superman, and I really appreciate the original Superman. I do. But Hunter's not wrong. The original Superman, it doesn't hold up. And here's the thing, Hunter. You're considerably younger than me. So, like, you did not grow up watching that Superman. So, you don't get it. Like, you don't understand the cultural significance that it had. Yes, it's true. It does not hold up well. Yes, it's true. Like, unlike The Godfather, you could play The Godfather for somebody for the first time today who's never seen it before, and they'll know this is one of the greatest movies ever made. Superman was a different beast, right? Like, Superman, if you showed it to somebody the first time today, they're probably going to look at it, number one, for the visuals, because what do you expect? It's an older movie. But also from the story beats and the dialogue and the gosh golly kind of nature of Superman. Yeah. That's all going to be kind of alien. But what you got to be able to appreciate, even though you didn't live in the time, you have to make yourself appreciate is this was the movie that made us all believe a man could fly. This Superman movie was epically groundbreaking for what it was and what it was in its genre. And to say, well, while I agree with you, yeah, you show this movie for the first time today, it doesn't go over so well, but okay, I get what you're saying, but keep this in mind. It's like saying, look, if you put Muhammad Ali, even in his best day, from his prime, in the ring with today's athletes, Muhammad Ali gets crushed. But that doesn't mean you go, oh, Muhammad Ali wasn't that good. Are you kidding me? You judge, like in sports, you judge athletes comparatively to their era. You don't cross the eras. You judge athletes comparative to their era. And when you look at the original Superman film as a comic book movie, comparative to its era, you cannot underestimate, you cannot underemphasize, I should say, the importance and the wow factor of that Superman movie. You can't do that. And it's not fair to take like a comic book superhero movie Now that it's all the rage and that we got 6 to 8 of them every single year, and we've got an established MCU, we got established DCU, we got X-Men universes, we got Deadpool, we got all that. You can't then take a movie that broke the ground and try to measure it by today's measurements. You can't do that. That's like trying to compare athletes from different eras when really the only way to judge the greatness of an athlete is judge them relative to their era. I think you have to understand that when Superman came out, there was no comic book genre. It didn't exist. There were maybe a couple of films that had been made that you could call a comic book movie, but Superman was it. And that was their big marketing push. You will believe a man could fly. And that movie made me believe I could fly. And again, I think Henry Cavill's a better Superman. I think Man of Steel is a better overall Superman movie. I agree with all that. But never underestimate, relative to its context and its era, just how groundbreaking that movie was, just how awe-inspiring it was in its era, and just how important that movie is. So, like, never lose sight of that. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. All right, we move on now to Jan Castro, who sends us this.
Hey John, thanks for taking my Civil War question last time, but my name's actually pronounced Jan, not Jan, but that's all good. I just wanted to ask, since you love the original Thor so much, if you noticed that in Thor Ragnarok, when Thor finally claimed the throne, the original Thor theme played, and I thought that was a really great callback.
I thought I did, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't 100% sure. But like that music in the first Thor, when all of Asgard is there and it's the crown ceremony that gets interrupted. And we haven't actually, I don't think at that point we've even heard Thor say any lines yet. And he winks at his mom and that music's playing. I thought I remember seeing that in the throne, but I didn't know that for sure. I'm glad that you're pointing it out because maybe that means it's actually true. I'm going to have to go now and watch it again just to see if that's the music. If it is, that is the music that's playing. You're right. That's a fabulous throwback and a fabulous callback to it. So it's terrific. All right. We move on now to the next one. And this one comes to us from Nicholas. And Nicholas sends us this.
Hi, John. Big fan of yours in the Collider and AMC days. And big shout out to Omaha, Nebraska, by the way. Quick question. If the Disney and Fox deal does not go through, does the rights still revert back to Marvel, or does it remain with Fox? And if so, when do you think the deal might not go through? Thank you, man, and appreciate your show, and you're awesome, and God bless you, man.
Hey, what's going on, John? This is Bobby Kessler from Iowa City, Iowa. Now, I'm about to go see Shape of Water. It finally opened here after months of waiting for it. Now, my question for you is, what's your favorite Del Toro movie? For me, it's either Hellboy 2 or Pan's Labyrinth, but I'm hoping Shape of Water takes the top. Keep it filthy.
Pan's Labyrinth is a fantastic film. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's awe-inspiring. It's beautiful fantasy. It's sci-fi. It's fantasy. It's all the good stuff all rolled into one. It's terrific. I love that film. But I got it. Look, and I love The Shape of Water. I love The Shape of Water. I think it's a heavy, heavy possibility that Shape of Water could be winning the Academy Award for Best Picture this year. I think that's a strong possibility. But I gotta go Blade 2. I've got to go Blade 2. I love Blade 2. I love that movie. It's so goofy and corny. I remember once, Ebert, and I'm forgetting who his partner was. This is long after Gene Siskel passed away. I think Roper. That's right. It was Roper who was hosting at the movies with Roger Ebert at the time. And they reviewed Blade 2. And I'll never forget... that I can't remember which one took which side between Robert and Ebert, but one of them goes, I'm trying to appreciate this movie, but they're just defying every sense of logic. There's next to no logic into it. And the guy says to him, well, it's a fantasy action sci-fi film. I mean, what parameters of logic are you looking for them to follow? And the other guy says, well, I mean, he's a vampire, right? Vampire logic. Just follow vampire logic. And the other guy goes, did you just say vampire logic? And I remember it was just one of the great moments of that show. I used to love watching at the movies, even after Gene Siskel had passed away, because Roger Ebert is just my all-time favorite film critic. Anyway, yeah, out of those movies, Del Toro's done many really good ones, but the one that's going to stand out to me most is Blade 2. All right, guys, that will do it for the audio and video questions. And by the way, you know, I can't get to every one of them that gets sent in, but most of them I can get on the show. So don't forget, guys, if you've got an audio or a video question, email that in, and maybe you will see your face or hear your voice on the John Campea Show. Just, again, john@thejohncampeashow.com, and put the word open mic in the subject line. Okay. With that now out of the way, let's get on to the live questions. That's what we're going to spend the rest of the show doing here, is just taking your live questions. And before I do that, guys, just my 1 little minute shameless plug here. Listen, guys, the reason my show and my channel are even able to exist is because of the generosity of my Patreon supporters. Listen, guys, do me a favor. If you like watching my shows and you watch my videos, do me a favor and even just go over to patreon.com/John Campea. Get the information there. There you'll learn 3 things. Number 1, what does it mean to be a Patreon supporter? Number 2, how does being a Patreon supporter actually make my show possible? And number 3, what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter. And maybe after reading all that stuff, you might want to become a Patreon supporter too. And if you do, that's awesome. And if not, I'm just glad you're here being a film fan with us. All right, let's get going now. And by the way, guys, for those of you who have, you know, maybe haven't watched me a lot lately, I have been sick. I caught the bubonic plague over the Christmas vacation. I've got a cough, so I've got halls in my mouth. And I know it's a little irritating, but it prevents me from coughing an awful lot more. So I apologize for that in advance. All right, let's go over to the live questions today. And we start off with Andy A. Hernandez, who writes, John, when will you be able to do a meet and greet? I've been thinking about that lately. I've been thinking about pulling together a meet and greet. I think I'll do one in Los Angeles, probably before the summer. And then maybe I'll do one at Comic-Con in San Diego. So for any of you guys who are in or around the LA area, keep your ears open. I'll probably plan a meet and greet sometime before the summer. So sometime in the next couple of months, keep your ears open and I'll get to that when I can. All right. Zircon writes, film you think's a masterpiece, but don't enjoy watching it. Well, if I don't enjoy watching it, then I don't think it's a masterpiece. It's just that simple. But there are films that I know are widely regarded as masterpieces that I don't enjoy. And obviously you guys know which movie that is, the original Blade Runner. I've just got to be honest with you. I could lie to make sure I look cool to you, but I'm not going to lie to you. I will never lie to you. I don't like the original Blade Runner. I've tried it several times. It's never worked for me. But I acknowledge that it is widely accepted as a masterpiece. And I will never poo-poo it. But that's always the film that comes up. So that's the one. All right. Orange Hand writes, did you know George R.R. Martin, writer of the books Game of Thrones is based on, is a big football fan? He loves the Giants and hates the Patriots. Well, not everybody's perfect. I mean, there you go. You want to love a team that can barely get to the and didn't even get into the playoffs, or you want to love a team that gets to the conference championship and into the Super Bowl apparently every single year? I go for that one. No, I've actually, you know what? True story. The reason I told this story a couple weeks ago, but the reason I'm a Patriots fan has something to do with the New York Giants. I'm a guy who loves coaches. And I used to be a big Buffalo Bills fan before they fucked over Doug Flutie. Anyway, I used to be a big Buffalo Bills fan, and the Bills were in the Super Bowl against the New York Giants. And the coach of the Giants was one of the greatest of all time, Bill Parcells. And they won the game, and I became a fan of Bill Parcells because they beat my team. And so I kind of became a fan of them. Anyway, later on, Bill Parcells became the coach of the New England Patriots, so I started watching and appreciating the Patriots, and that's how I became a New England Patriots fan, is when Coach Parcells went over to the New England Patriots, which is connected to the New York Giants. So there you go. Part of the reason I'm a big Patriots fan is because of something that came out of the New York Giants, Coach Bill Parcells. There you go. Devontae Brown writes, October 18th, or October 2018, film Overlord confirmed as Cloverfield 4. Don't we mean Cloverfield 3? Is that what they have they confirmed that? I've been really busy today. Have they confirmed that the name for the next Cloverfield movie is Overlord and not God Particle? I haven't. I know Netflix is becoming close about making some kind of an announcement and all that kind of stuff. I will have to look at that, Devontae. Thanks for bringing. Now you guys all know. That's one of the great things about having this fan community, is one fan can let everybody else know about it. Now everybody knows about it, and that's fantastic. Thanks for putting that in there, Devontae. Let's see. Maybe One Name writes, I know your theory about Rey seeing Kylo at the end of The Last Jedi. However, I think that the connection Snoke created is still there even though he's dead. Much like the gold dice lingered after Luke had died. Oh, I agree with you. Maybe One Name. I agree. So the reason I believe, even though Snoke is the one who created the connection, the Force connection between Kylo and Rey, the reason I believe Rey was still kind of able, as she's getting back on the Millennium Falcon with all the rest of the rebels to escape, her and Kylo once again share a quick moment. Now, I don't know if they visually saw each other or if they just felt each other's presence, whatever, but I believe that's still the effect still lingering. But how can it? Snoke is dead. Yes, Snoke made the connection, but the connection is now there. He's gone. Like, I can put this glass of soda on this microphone, right? This is not a good example because it won't stay. But just for argument's sake, I could put this soda on top of this microphone. Now I can leave. But does that mean that the soda isn't there anymore? No, I put it there. Now the soda is there, whether I'm here or not. I think Snoke created the bond. Well, we know he did. Snoke created the connection between Rey and Kylo. And just because he's gone doesn't mean the connection isn't still there. Or as you're putting it, I like the way you put it, Maybe One Name, it's still lingering. So yes, I completely agree with you. Maybe One Name writes, I also think Rey and Kylo will continue to occasionally see each other in Episode 9, the way they did in The Last Jedi. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know that I agree with you completely, but I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if that connection that Snoke made lingers even into Episode 9. Again, if I had to put $5 on it, I would say no, they're not. But I don't think it's a crazy theory. I think it's certainly possible. So I think you might be onto something. All right, Koba writes, do you like Monty Python? Oh, come on. Do I like Monty Python? Who doesn't like Monty Python? Do you like Monty Python? Have you seen the movies? If so, which is your favorite? I love Life of Brian. Life of Brian is awesome. It's great. I mean, I used to watch a lot of their sketch stuff too. Monty Python is just so great. But, I mean, it's the Arthur movie, man. I mean, it's one of the greatest comedies of all times. Sir Robin ran away. You know, I mean, he was not afraid to have his head cut off and his legs dug out, his intestines. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the quintessential Monty Python, right? Holy Grail is the Holy Grail of Monty Python. And yet there's many other things that they've done that was very, very good. By the way, the cheese shop sketch of Monty Python, one of the funniest things any man, woman, or child in the history of humanity has ever. If you have not seen it, look up the cheese Shop skit by Monty Python on YouTube. While you're also doing it, look up the Parrot sketch by Monty Python. The Parrot sketch kills me every time. This is a deceased parrot. Anyway, okay. But yes, love Monty Python. Serenity Jane writes, "Hey John, if they do recast Leia, would Kate Mulgrew would be a good choice for the fun? Meryl Streep, thanks." Well, you know my answer to that, Serenity. It's as long as it's a good, solid actress. And then if they recast, the solid actress comes in and says, I'm doing this in Carrie Fisher's name. And I'm doing this dedicated to Carrie Fisher and for her. To finish the work with this character that she has worked so hard over her life to bring us, I'm doing this for her. And if they do that, I think it'll be fine. And sure, there's lots of different names that you could throw out there that would be perfectly great. Kate Blanchett, Meryl Streep. I mean, the list goes on that you could do it, which would be perfectly fine as long as it's a great actress who can carry the ball across the finish line for Carrie Fisher, since she can't do it herself now. That's all that really matters to me. Thanks a lot for the question, Serenity. Amin Masha Kihai writes, other than Star Wars, what's been your favorite premiere to go to? My favorite premiere to go to? I think, man, a couple come to mind. Scott Pilgrim versus the World was a really fun premiere. I really loved going to that one. Let's see. The Dark Knight Returns was... Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Rises was a very fun one. You know what? Cinderella. The Cinderella premiere was so much fun because when Disney does a premiere, and I'm going to a Disney premiere tonight, I'm going to go see Black Panther tonight, which I'm so excited about. But when Disney does a premiere, like they go pull out all the stops and they bring in circus performers and like all this stuff. And the Cinderella one was an awful lot of fun. So I don't know, man. There's been a bunch that I really loved, but I would have to think about that. But those are a couple that come to mind. Thanks for the question. All right, Ben Rayner writes, favorite office episode. If you had to pick just one, oh my God, pick just one episode of The Office. That's, Ben, that's one of those questions that would be impossible for me to answer. Let me see what comes to mind quickly, but do not think that that's my answer, okay? The dinner party with Pam, and they get the three couples together, and he keeps talking about his new plasma TV and his little 18-inch, and she starts singing the songs, and they talk about her candling. The dinner party episode is so freaking good. Also, there's the episode where Steve Carell falls into the fish pond. Him falling in the fish pond in the pond, one of the funniest things I've ever... The one episode where he's talking about doing bacon when he wakes up in the morning was great. I mean, I can't pick just one. But maybe you guys can think of a couple. Jump down to the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. All right. Orange Hand writes, we all know that film/TV actors tend to be attractive. But do you think an actor can be too good looking for a role? I.e. Chloe Moretz in the Carrie remake. I don't know. It depends. Like, if the character... Like, if Brad Pitt, without makeup, is supposed to be playing a guy who's just an average Joe and maybe is kind of frumpy and schlumpy and whatever, kind of like me, then if you don't downplay his incredible good looks with makeup, then yeah, it can become... I never saw the Chloe Moretz one, I'll be honest with you. I never saw that. I mean, I saw the movie. What I'm saying is I don't see that she was too attractive for the role. I don't see that. Trying to think of an example where that really comes to mind. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I can think of a situation where it would be a distraction. I just don't know if I can think of anything off the top of my head where it actually practically played out. So great question. You guys think about it. Jump down to the comment section. Let Orange Hand know what you think. Devontae Brown writes, with Black Panther, will we finally see an increase in black empowerment movies / decrease in black struggle movies? As a black man, I'm tired of unbalanced portrayals. Well, here's the thing, Devontae. I have never minded the black struggle movie because it is such a horrific part of our history and such a horrific thing that I think we need those movies to never let us forget This, if we're not careful and if we're not vigilant, this is what we become. We could never become that. It just looked like 40 years ago, man. It's not like it's 1,000 years ago. It's not like it's that far away. We're only a breath away from being that again. And make no mistake, there are people in this country who would love us to go to back to those days. And I think movies like that are important for us culturally to remind us of just how close we are to being that again, of what we did as a culture, what a segment of our culture had to persevere and endure for so long to get to where they are now, and we haven't come all the way that we need to. So I would not want to downplay the importance of those movies and the powerful stories that they tell about people who endured those times and who rose above it. I think those are amazing stories to tell. I never want to see them not make those movies. Pardon me. As far as will this spark an increase now in black empowerment stories? Hey man, you know what I'm going to say. Winning solves everything. If Black Panther comes out and is as good as we think it's going to be, and can be as successful as we think it's going to be, I think all it will do, I don't think it's going to change the game overnight, but it will do nothing but help the issue. It will do nothing but help the issue. And I think Black Panther could be a very strong piece in that puzzle to move those sorts of movies and getting more of those types of movies forward. Look, studios are just about money, which is fair. They're a business. I get it. But if they see, as you are phrasing them, black power empowerment movies are popular amongst the fans and they're making money for us as a business, you bet your ass they will start lining up to make more of these movies. It's not going to change it overnight, but it will have an influence, I believe. If it's good and if it's successful, and those are two big ifs like any movie. All right. P. Cheek writes, have you watched Bojack Horseman on Netflix? You know what's funny? I was just watching an ad for Bojack Horseman, and I've never watched it. To be honest with you, it does not appeal to me at all. It does not look appealing. But I've had many people tell me it's hilarious and that I really need to watch it. So I've got it on my list. It's about 2 binge shows down on my list right now, so I'm getting to it. So I'd say within the next month or two, I will finally get around to watching BoJack. Just because, and then maybe I'll abandon it if I don't like it. But I am working my way down to it, and many people are telling me it's great. So hang on, more news to come. Amin writes, better returning character performance for Harrison Ford, The Force Awakens or Blade Runner 2049, and thoughts on Indiana Jones 5 being Spielberg's next film. Well, I'll believe, as far as the Indiana Jones things go, I'll believe it when I see it. We've been talking about it for so long. You know me. I'm just in that position that I'll believe it when I see it. But to the main question, the better returning performance, The Force Awakens, I'll go The Force Awakens. I just thought he captured the Harrison, the Han Solo character better again than he did with the Decker character. That's just, I'm not saying The Force Awakens is better than Blade Runner 2049. I'm not saying it's not better than Blade Runner 2049. I'm just saying I just happen to think that was the better return of the character to me. So that's just my opinion. Maybe many of you will disagree, and that's totally fine, but that's my honest opinion. Tony Bush writes, New Mutants will be the first mutant movie in the MCU. I don't think so. The movie's already made. They're not going to remake the movie. The delay was not to reshoot it. So it won't fit in the new MCU. Plus, I really don't think it's... I still don't think the deal is going to be done by then. I still don't think the deal is going to be done. But, you know, hey, let's just wait and see. But I don't think the deal will even have been cleared by then. And even once the deal is cleared, then you need another big chunk of months, whether it's 4 months, 8 months, 12 months, for Disney and Fox to really start the process of the merger. We are a long ways away from seeing the full ramification of Disney taking it over. So for those reasons, Tony, I do not think it's even possible for the New Mutants to be the first mutant movie in the MCU. I just don't think the timing works out. But you never know. I could be totally wrong about that. That's the way it seems to me. All right. X Faziolo writes, thoughts on the director of Battle of the Bastards, Hard Home, and season 6 finale of Game of Thrones coming back to do 2 of the 6 episodes for season 8. That's nice. It's nice. But here's the thing. The director in television is not the same as the director in a movie. They have different levels of power and different levels of influence. In a movie, the director is the buck stops here person. The director is the one who makes all those major creative decisions and things like that, with some exceptions, of course. In television, it's not the director. In television, it's the writers and the showrunner who really have all the power over what happens in the show. They just need a director to come in and be there on set to make the writer's vision come to life. It's the writers and the showrunners who have all the power, not the director. It's a switch from television to movies. So for that, hey, look, whatever formula they use for Battle of the Bastards and a lot of those episodes, you want to repeat that formula for a couple more episodes in the final season? Great. That's great. But let's not overplay how significant. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to underplay the role of the director. I'm not saying, it doesn't matter. The director's nothing. I'm not saying that for television either. I'm just saying it's not the same as the movies. It's a different thing for the movies. And yeah, those are just my thoughts. But hey, great. I mean, super. I'm looking forward to it. And if he's coming back, great. He did a nice job before, obviously. So great. But the more important thing is the writers. That's the key thing. Cameron Peterson writes, "Hey, John, you inspired me to make my own YouTube channel." Well, that's awesome, Cameron. Thanks for sharing that with me. What do you think about people freaking out that Wonder Woman didn't get an Oscar nom? It didn't deserve it. Look, I liked Wonder Woman, but look, there are lots of movies I really liked this year that I said did not deserve an Academy Award nomination. And Wonder Woman is one of them. Wonder Woman was a major step forward for the DCEU, absolutely. Patty Jenkins did a great job directing it. You guys have heard me singing my Patty Jenkins songs all year long, like long before Wonder Woman ever came out. You know how pro Patty Jenkins I am. But Wonder Woman wasn't that good. It was good. I enjoyed it. Yay! I liked it more than a couple other comic book movies this year. Yeah! But it wasn't that good. It did not deserve, by any stretch of the imagination. All movies are subjective, and if you feel it did, that's great. I'm not trying to poo-poo on you for thinking it, but to me, it's not even in the conversation. I thought maybe there were one or two technical awards it could have gotten a nomination for. I thought the sound design in Wonder Woman was wonderful. I thought maybe there was a chance it could nab a sound design Academy Award nomination. But even then, I wasn't really convinced of it. I just thought it's possible. But, like, obviously not for actress. I thought the category was too stacked for her to get a Best Director nomination. She probably wasn't even going to be in the top 10. It certainly didn't deserve any discussion about Best Picture. So, yeah, I mean, but hey, that's the beauty of the movies. It's all subjective. And to you, it's outrageous that a certain movie didn't get nominated, when maybe to a bunch of other people, no, it shouldn't have gotten nominated. That's the beautiful thing about film, is we can still feel the way we feel, and it doesn't have to be justified by other people agreeing with us. That's the great thing about movies, man. All right, Ned Smith writes, "Do you think films could have distinct..." Ned, what? Please check your spelling. "Do you think films could have distinct intrinsic quality?" You have to be more clear about what it is you're asking. All films have intrinsic quality. Distinct, and all films are distinct. So I'm really not quite sure, Ned, what it is you're asking. So I have to move on. Well, my apologies. Double check your spelling next time, and double check your phrasing. Say your question into a mirror and pretend like you don't know what you're asking. Does it make sense to you? If it does, then move forward with it. But thanks for sending in a question anyway, Ned. I appreciate that. Tony Bush writes, "Did you watch the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable with Del Toro, Jolie, Jenkins, Wright, and Villeneuve at 2750? They all give Greta Gerwig the what the fuck face." I did not see it, but I have watched a number of those roundtable. Those are great. I'll be honest with you, Tony, I didn't even know that one was out. You have now put it on my radar. I'm going to watch it tonight. Thank you so much for this is, again, one of the great things I love about doing this show is I learn way more from you guys than you guys learn from me. This is great. Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention and putting it on my radar. President Evil writes, "Do you listen to the Joe Rogan's podcast? I love it. I don't listen to it regularly, but I do listen to it. But once a month, I'll pop on one of his podcasts. I just think he's an entertaining dude. Obviously, I'm an MMA guy, so I love listening to him talk about that. He quite often has some really great guests on his show. And I don't always agree with him. Actually, I only agree with him about a lot of his opinions half the time, but I love the way he communicates his opinion. And that's what's valuable to me, is that, and you guys hear me preach this all the time, what I like about Joe Rogan is that even when he's talking, whether it's subject about MMA, whether it's politics, whether it's anything, when he gives his opinion, he's not just some brash dude. He's actually pretty smart. And when he communicates, he doesn't change my mind, but it lets me feel as a listener, I now better understand his position and the position that some other people have better than I understood it before. Doesn't mean I agree with it. Doesn't mean I'm going to change my mind. But by listening to him, I feel like I better understand that position more, and that has value to me. And I believe the same thing about the movie community. I believe the value of a good film critic or of a good film pundit is not finding somebody that you just always agree with. I don't understand that. To me, it's about finding somebody who's such an effective communicator, or is an effective enough communicator, that you agree with them half the time, maybe a lot of time you don't agree with them, but you always walk away feeling like you better understand why you think the way you think and why somebody else thinks the way they think, whether you agree with it or not. To me, that's value, and that's one of the things I really value about Joe Rogan. Just my thought. And he's a great color guy for UFC. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, do you think we'll see Thunderbolt Ross in Infinity War? What about the return of Betty Ross too? I don't think we're going to get Betty Ross. I think they've moved on from Betty Ross. I don't think we're going to see that again. It's a pointless side story that we don't need. Now watch, she's going to be in it. But anyway, understanding Thunderbolt Ross's position in the government, isn't he SecDef? Isn't he like Secretary of Defense? What was his role again in Civil War? I think it was Secretary of Defense. Anyway, understanding his role in the government and the fact that he's kind of like the watchdog for the Avengers, I don't know why you wouldn't have him in it. Honestly, I can't remember if they ever announced he was in it or not. But to me, I'll probably be a little bit surprised if he isn't in it, but I wouldn't expect Betty Ross. Now watch, she's going to be in it. Okay, John Campea writes, thoughts on Sam Raimi directing Kingkiller Chronicle movie. Lin-Manuel Miranda helping, and books are phenomenal. Are you familiar with them? I'm not familiar with them at all. Not at all. And I don't know if you're just proposing Sam Raimi directing them, or if you're telling me that's actually in the news that Sam Raimi has announced he's directing. Look, if Sam Raimi's directing something, I'll be interested in it because it's Sam Raimi and he's awesome. But I haven't heard of these books before. I'm very unfamiliar with it, so I can't really give much opinion other than that. I'm also a big Lin-Manuel Miranda fan. I love what he did with Moana. I loved Hamilton. Like, I went to watch Hamilton with Anne, and I was like, well, it's not going to be as big as the hype. I thought it outdid the hype. I really did. I loved Hamilton. I thought it was incredible. Mason Barr writes, Deep Blue Sea 2 without LL Cool J and Samuel Jackson. I mean, random as fuck. Yeah, I mean, and it's straight to Blu-ray. I watched the trailer for Deep Blue. For those who didn't know, the trailer for Deep Blue Sea 2 dropped today. It's a straight-to-home video release. It looks like just a copy of the first one. I didn't recognize any of the faces in it, so I think they went with an all-new cast. But it looks like they did some of the exact same shots that they did in the first one, too. Obviously, Samuel Jackson couldn't be in it because, spoiler alert, he dies. So, yeah, it was totally random. I was like, really? Why are you making another one of these? But whatever, straight-to-home video. Maybe they made it for like $3 million and they can make a little bit of money on it. Caleb writes, hey, John. Was just wondering, who would you think the greatest portrayal of a villain is? For me, it's Anton Chigurh and his utter lack of humanity. Well, he's one of the great villains for sure. But, I mean, then there's Vader. There's Hans Gruber, of course, with the great Alan Rickman. You can't get away from that. There's obviously Heath Ledger's Joker. You can't get away from that. You can't, I mean, there are so many great ones. I mean, Anton, of course, was fantastic. He was great. Sometimes it's still all I can see. Like, I'm watching Mother or watching James Bond, and he's there, and it's like something, man, it's just Anton. I'm just seeing Anton. Don't get me wrong. He's doing a great job acting. It's just that there's a little thing. Actually, I guess I can take the headphones off now, which is great. It's just one of those things where that character Anton was so impactful to me that now when I see his face, I just kind of think Anton a little bit. But I wouldn't say it's the greatest portrayal ever, but it certainly deserves to be in the discussion. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who would agree with you on that one too. Darth Wayne 97 writes, hey, John, Did you ever see the Churchill movie starring Brian Cox? I remember seeing trailers for it, but heard nothing about it since. I did not, which I'm kind of disappointed about because I really like Brian Cox. And to not see that movie, it's too bad. I know it didn't get wide release here or anything like that, but I just never got around to watching it, which is too bad. It seems like the last couple of years we've gotten some really good heavyweight Winston Churchill portrayals, whether you're talking about Brian Cox, and again, I didn't see it, but from what I hear, he did a very good job. Obviously, Gary Oldman is going to win the Academy Award this year for Darkest Hours. Jonathan Lithgow portraying him in The Queen. So we've had a couple of really good, big, prominent performances of the character in the last couple of years. ZCM Zombie, and I lost you, Zombie. Let me find you again. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you have not sent in a super chat question yet, please do not send in another question. Okay. Because I'm just going to run out of time. So ZCMZ Zombie Custom Maps writes, what are the chances that Denis Villeneuve can or cannot make the Dune movie due to the box office fallout of Blade Runner 2049? I still think it's happening. I really do. Nobody is faulting Denis Villeneuve for what happened to Blade Runner 2049. That was a marketing mess. That was even a concept mess. Like, trying to do this movie 30, 45 years later, when it doesn't have as big of a following as you think it did, and all that kind of stuff. The movie was masterfully made and beautifully directed. That's all the studio really cares about. They know that the mistakes with Blade Runner 2049 were things that were outside of Denis' control. So I really don't think it's going to affect the Dune movie at all. I really do think the Dune movie is going to move forward. Shazny L writes, I hate you as much as I love you, Black Panther. Well, hey, that's the sign of a good pundit then. That you will love me as much as you hate me and hate me as much as you love me. Hopefully you neither love me nor hate me, but just enjoy what I'm saying or disagree with what I'm saying. Hopefully that's what you mean. But why are you sad about Black Panther? It's going to be great. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, thoughts on the Stan Lee allegations? I don't know him. So I have no thoughts. So, but here's the thing. The first thing that went through my head is, really? There are allegations that a man well past his 90s in a nursing environment did something inappropriate? Say it ain't so. I mean, really? Okay, sure. And in other news, water wet. So, I mean, look, it's neither, I'm not saying it's okay, not at all, not in the least, but I mean, I don't know what happened. I didn't read up on it. I didn't find out all the details. So I am not in a position to give an adequate opinion about what I think about the Stan Lee allegations, other than hearing that a man north of his 90s acted inappropriately with a younger nurse. Color me shocked. Not that that doesn't make it okay, not at all. I'm just saying I didn't read into it any more than that. That's why to me it wasn't a story for me to even bother reading about. Robert Allen just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Robert. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes again. Let's see. Do you think there will be another Jason Bourne movie? Yeah. Yeah, I think there will. Especially if, like, the new Jennifer Lawrence, like, espionage movie that's coming out. What's it called? Red Sparrow or something like that. If that's successful, if the next James Bond film does well, then yes, I think you're going to see another Jason Bourne movie. I didn't love the last one, to be honest with you. To me, they made a lot of mistakes in the last one, but whatever. Charlene Gray writes, what movie did terribly in the past would do well today? What movie that did well in the past? Well, I don't know. I would have to sit down and actually look at a full list at box office numbers from pre-1980, like from the 1970s, and then look and analyze that. Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I would really have to think about it. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about Superman, the original Superman. Maybe that wouldn't do so well today, but we just don't know for sure. Andrew Hermes writes, excited for McKay's Nightwing, but will the character really stick with audiences without having a fleshed out Robin movie before it? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The general movie going audience doesn't care, and I don't even think that movie's going to get made. The audience doesn't care because the vast majority of the audience doesn't read comic books. So all they care about is, are you going to give us a great character? And you can sum up a lot of history in 5 minutes if you need to, and you can do it very well. So other than that, even if the movie happens, and again, I don't think it's going to happen. It'd be cool if it did, but I don't think it will. Yeah, I just still don't think it's going to happen, man. Styler Manu 1 writes, I've been watching some interesting analysis of The Last Jedi on YouTube. New Force users / broom kid have been compared to millennials. All the reward without the training. Your thoughts? Keep it filthy, mate. Well, again, I'll just go back to what I've been saying all the time. You think Luke had training? Luke had 5 minutes with Obi-Wan and the Millennium Falcon. He spent a weekend with Yoda. Ah! And that's the way it is. You have the Force or you do not. You don't learn the Force if you don't already have it. That's why in the old movies, the Jedi, we're going back to the prequel things, the Jedi didn't just go and recruit any kid. They found kids who already had it. And then they just taught them better how to use it and things like that and be disciplined and things like that. But, I mean, hey, the Force, if the Force needs to reemerge and the Force chose to express itself and manifest itself through Luke because the universe needed him to bring balance to it, and now through Rey because the Force needs her to bring balance to it, then that's the way it is. That's the Force. And that's the nature of the Force, and that's why it works that way. All right. C.H. Vagion Akis writes, John, no sound for the third or fourth question. Oh, did the sound cut out for a bit? I apologize if that happened. Sorry for that. But everything seems to be good now. I'm not seeing anything in the... I'm not seeing anything in here about no audio. So what if there was an issue, it looks like it's corrected itself. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Brandon Torres writes, will you ever do a 10 or 20 favorite movies list? Well, I've done 10. I've done top 10 favorite movies list before. Top 20? Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that sometime soon. Not a bad idea, Brandon. Ash Cartwright writes, what do you think of the Batman Telltale games? Some of the freshest interpretations of those characters, intro, especially Harley Quinn. Haven't sat down and watched them yet. My friend Corey has played them and she raves about them. She loves them. So I will have to sit down and I'm planning on doing more video game cutscene movie reviews. So, and right at the top of my list is the Batman Telltale games. That and Witcher 3 and one or two others. So I will get to those pretty quick. Mary writes, John, your response to Jay Washington was very measured. Not sure I would have been as calm. Look, for those of you who don't know, you know, I'm not going to go into it. If you want to read up on it, that's fine. Jay Washington is a dude who has always been very pleasant and polite to my face, and then accused me today on Twitter of hating the idea of a black-led superhero movie. For any of you who watch my channel, or any of my videos, you know how hurtful that is, how unfair that was. And it's so funny because he said all that and then admitted he doesn't watch my videos. And I mean, look, I could have yelled and screamed and started a Twitter fight or done whatever. But I mean, I don't know what the point is. How do you argue with a film critic who doesn't like your movie when you find out later they never even watched your movie? I don't know. But Jay decided to take a title in one of my videos because one of my fans asked the question, hey, are they misusing basically? Are they just using Black Panther to set up Avengers? That was the question, so it's in my title. I answered the question, no, they are not, right? But Jay didn't bother to read it. Jay just saw that the question in the title, and for you guys who watch my videos, you know the titles of my videos are based on the questions that get sent in. That's the title of my video. Jay decided that it was racist for somebody to even ask the question, even though they're asking, like, are they misusing it, to even ask the question, hey man, they're just 10 weeks apart. Are they just using Black Panther to set up Infinity War? It's a fair question. I said, no, they're not. It's its own standalone movie. It's going to be great. It's going to be blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But Jay decided to, without watching the video, without hearing what was said about it, to jump on Twitter and essentially call me a racist. By saying that I'm against the idea of a black superhero movie. To which any of you who watch my videos, well, you're all snickering and laughing. But yeah, Jay Washington, who I've never had a problem with, who's always been, I mean, he's, I don't want to call him Two-Face, but he's always been really nice to my face. decided to, based on the title of a video, jump to a conclusion that I don't want a black superhero movie. Which is hilarious because I've been spending the last 3 weeks of my life fighting off ignorant racists who just keep throwing this, you're just an SJW, you're just an SJW, you're just an SJW. It's like, okay, racist pig, but whatever. So it's just funny that for 3 weeks I'm fighting that off, and then I turn around and some guy who should know better gets on Twitter and writes that. Without watching the videos, without bothering to look into. And it's concerning to me, this is the part that concerns me, is that it's so easy to name call like that, and it's so easy to throw around a label like that, that I think you bear responsibility that if you're going to throw an accusation at somebody, like you, a pasty white dude, you don't want a black-led superhero movie. To me, if you're going to throw something like that out there, you have a responsibility to take a minute and look into it first. You have a responsibility, especially if you already know the guy, Jay knows who I am, to fire him off an email and say, hey man, you said this and it bothers me. Am I reading this right? Am I understanding what you're saying right? Like, to me, if you're going to hop online and publicly throw a phrase like that out at somebody, and you know the person, but you didn't watch the video? You didn't actually look into it first? You didn't take so much as a moment to investigate what you're about to charge? Look, I responded to Jay. I said, look, dude, I really suggest that you, if you're going to critique a movie, watch the movie first. If you're going to do a criticism about one of my videos, watch the video first. And I told him, I think what you did was really hurtful. What you said was very hurtful, especially since you admit you didn't even watch the video. But you're throwing terms like those. These things stick, man. And I'm very disappointed in him. I'm just really disappointed in him. I'm not angry. I'm not going to start a Twitter war. Jay struck me as a pretty good dude. I've always liked it when Jay was in and around the offices I was in. I've always thought he was a really nice, uplifting, cool presence. I've never had a bad thing to say about him. I'm really disappointed in him that he would conduct himself like that and treat other people like that without even looking into it. But I mean, hopefully hopefully the situation stops and we move on from there. All right. Maul Mahler writes, I'm watching Boardwalk. Pardon me. I'm watching Boardwalk Empire for the first time. Have you seen it? Thoughts? Yes, I love Boardwalk Empire. However, after the second season, it's still real strong, but I find a decline starts to happen. So if you get through the second season and you just decide to abandon after that, I think you might be okay to do that. But I love the first two seasons. The first two seasons are insanely good. Kevin Bennett writes, was there ever a TV show or movie, assume that you've seen most of all movies, did you adamantly refuse to watch, but later watched and loved? Paddington for me. I don't think there's any that I adamantly refuse to watch. I mean, there are always movies because time is limited. I do get around to seeing most movies, but there are sometimes I go, you know what, I got to see like 5 movies this week. I'm going to take a pass on that one. And then maybe it happens again next week. But like, I can't think of any that I was like, no, I am never going to darken the door of a theater to go see that. But quite often, a couple times a month, I got to go, you know what, I got to see 4 movies this week, or I got to see 5 movies this week. I got to pick and choose 1 or 2 that I need to axe. I'm going to choose not to see that one. I'm going to choose not to see that one. But it's not like I'm adamant about it. You know what I mean? So it's a totally fair question. Just last couple of questions here. Tony Bush writes, Peyton Manning is great. Almost as good as our QB in Wisconsin. Peyton Manning. I mean, look, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Peyton Manning's in the discussion. I mean, what Peyton Manning did in his career. I mean, there's just, Tony, you're absolutely right. There's just no way around that. Devontae Brown writes, Overlord is Cloverfield film. Oh, after God Particle. Oh, I see what you're saying, Devontae. Okay. I didn't know that. Again, the last I heard, Netflix was in talks to buy God Particle with possibilities of either international releasing while Paramount still releases it in North America, or getting the North American rights too. I haven't seen what the updates on that today have been, but thank you for the clarification. I'll look into that as soon as we're done. Cobra writes, always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of your life. Somebody who knows his Monty Python. Kevin Bennett writes, is Black Panther likely to bring the haters of movies with strong minorities and women out of the woodwork like The Last Jedi did? Well, yeah, they already are. I mean, I made a video the other day about why, and it was a video for me to explain to my fellow pasty white dudes why Black Panther is important and why so many people are so excited about it and why it's so important to them for this to come happening. That, like, we as a white community need to understand why it's important to them. I'm not saying we have to be as excited about it as them, but we need to try to take a step back and understand why they are. But yep, I made that video and people coming out of the woodwork to attack it like crazy. So unfortunately, that's truth. Whenever you do something of beauty, it will always attract the ugly as well. You put out beautiful honey, it's going to attract the flies and the wasps. It's an unfortunate part of reality, but we just need to learn to navigate it and deal with it. Ben Rayner writes, in my opinion, Battle of the Bastards is the best hour of television ever. I really love it. But to me, the best episode of television ever is Exodus from Battlestar Galactica. That, to me, is my favorite single episode of television of all time. But Battle of the Bastards is terrific. No argument from me, man. Let's see. Holy crap, a whole bunch more came in. Let's see, where are we? Styler Man who writes, and I've only got about 5 minutes left. Styler Man who writes, I've seen the Twitter interaction between you and Jay Washington. You don't need to explain the video title. We know that you support Black Panther and champion diverse heroes. Well, thank you so much, Styler. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Iggy is Horrible writes, hey, now that Hugh Jackman is out, I want a short, thick, and hairy Wolverine, maybe Canadian. John, how tall are you? I'm a little too tall to be the true Wolverine, but it's not going to happen, Iggy. To movie audiences now, Wolverine is a 6'2" dude who kind of looks like Hugh Jackman. That's what Wolverine is now. He's still that other thing in the comics, but for the movie audiences now and for the movie world, Wolverine is a Hugh Jackman's now the prototype. So I don't think we're going to see a 5'3" Wolverine in the next incarnation of Wolverine. But how cool would it be if they did come out like with a short little Wolverine, like the way he is in the comic books? That would be interesting. I just don't think it's going to happen. Devontae Brown writes, I understand the importance of black struggle films. Just want a better variety in media, not just criminal, slaves, and ghetto. Oh no, I'm completely with you on that. That like make more like the empowerment movies you're talking about. Absolutely, completely, I agree with you. I'm just saying I always still want to have an appreciation for those other movies, but I'm right with you. Totally with you on that. Absolutely. Justin Walker writes, hey, John, what did you think of the teal green suit shown in the photos just released of Captain Marvel? Well, I explained that in the John Campea show. There's an episode of the John Campea show with that on the thumbnail. You can see it. I think it's impossible to have an opinion because it's out of context. We don't know what the context of it is. It is quite possible and maybe even likely that that costume is going to be in the movie for 3 minutes before it's changed. Like, we just don't know the context. So, like, if you saw a picture of Tony Stark in the Mark 1 Iron Man armor that he built in the cave, people would lose their minds. That's not what Iron Man's supposed to look like, blah, blah, blah. But we have to know the context. And right now, that's just a leaked photo from a set out of context. So I wouldn't develop any kind of opinion over it, really. Right now, the design looks right. The color is obviously different from what we're used to. But again, it's out of context. So let's try not to form any solid opinion about it until we get a better idea of the context. Taser Buddy writes, what's your favorite movie sound effect? I love the T-Rex roar more than anything in the world. T-Rex roar is good. Of course, my favorite sound effect of all time, though, man. It's going to be the lightsaber. The lightsaber will always be my all-time favorite sound effect. But that T-Rex roar, especially in the first Jurassic Park, man, that is legendary. You are bang on the money with that. Sherrod Ritchie writes, to think Black Panther will be throwaway movie to just advertise Infinity War is disrespectful. It's important. It's an important film for black people. The character movie is a big deal. But Sherrod, here's what you're missing the point. The question wasn't, should they just be using it to? The question was, are they just using it to? And I think implied in the question is, that would be misusing Black Panther. Look, let us never get to the point where asking a question is considered disrespectful. Let's get to the point where asking a question is not considered, because guess what? It's a fair question. You got this movie opening up just 10 weeks before this movie. That is their big, culmination of their entire MCU up to this point. It's not irrational for somebody to ask the question, hey, is Marvel misusing Black Panther and just using it as a build-up to that because it's just 10 weeks apart? It's not unfair for somebody to ask. Then we answer, no, it's not, because we can see that, like what I said on the show this morning, you don't bring in a director like Ryan Coogler just to do a glorified commercial for Infinity War. You don't bring in the talent level that they've brought in for this movie just to do a glorified thing. And everything we can tell from the trailers, I see nothing of Infinity War in those trailers so far. So let people ask the question without being afraid. Let's not make people afraid to ask questions. Let them ask the questions, and then let's respond to the questions. And that is how civil discourse happens. So I want to encourage you about that. Justin Walker writes, hey, John, would you rather have director Patty Jenkins direct Man of Steel 2 instead of Snyder? I think so. Well, you know me. As long as it's a good director, it's fine. I love what Zack Snyder did on the first Man of Steel. So I would be all for it. Sure, I'd be all for Patty Jenkins directing another Superman movie. Absolutely. I mean, she's a great director, so why not? And Old Flicks Joe writes, did you enjoy the Blade franchise? Oh, I did until the final one. Blade 3 was such a pile of crap. And don't get me wrong, like, I love Ryan Reynolds in it. I think, Mrs. Justin Timberlake, Jessica Biel, she had a lightsaber, bow and arrow thing. Like, does she have lightsabers? Like, she basically had lightsabers, which is stupid. And then they completely made vampires wimpy little things that could be killed easily by any human. They just butchered it. But the first two were good enough that I really did, especially the second one. The second one to me is like the creme de resistance. Anyway, guys, that will do it for this installment of Coffee Time Open Mic. Thanks for joining me. And guys, going to let you know, Open Mic is now going to be Monday at 3 p.m., Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. On Tuesdays, we're going to have Star Wars Talk Tuesdays at 3 p.m. On Fridays, we're going to have The Weekly Hero at 3 p.m. So at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, we're going to have Open Mic, Star Wars Talk Tuesday, Open Mic, The Weekly Hero, and that's how the show's going to go. So tomorrow at the 3 o'clock slot, we're going to have Star Wars Talk Tuesday. Make sure you guys come in and join me for that. Guys, that will do it for me for this installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being a part of it, sharing your thoughts and opinions on everything going on in the world of movies. I really appreciate it. And once again, guys, don't be shy about sending in those video and audio questions. Just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com and put the words Open Mic in the subject line. That will do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.